Joe Rogan cannot fathom that people actually like Vice President Kamala Harris. Let's watch.
Everybody forever was like, Kamala Harris is the worst vice president. She's the least popular vice president of all time. And then in a moment in time, all of a sudden she's our solution. She's our hero. Everybody's with her. All these social media posts about her. Try Googling a negative story on her. You won't find one.
So,
ta-da!
Okay, you've got.
Rogan also made this prediction on the 2024 presidential election with his guest cultural commentator Michael Malice.
She's going to win.
No, she's not.
She can win.
She absolutely can win. I do not think she's going to win because the more she talks, like in 2020, how bad do you have to be that you can't even make Iowa? She couldn't even compete with the mayor of South Bend.
I feel like we are in this very bizarre time where people are giving in to the in a way that I never suspected people would before. And this is one, they just want no Trump no matter what, and they're willing to gaslight themselves to think that. And by the way, I think Hillary could win. If Hillary jumped back in.
Rogan had this to say about the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump.
I would have thought that Trump getting shot would that's it, election's over. But it's like they memory hold that so quick.
You would have thought Trump getting shot would have had 8 years of corporate journalists talking about hate speech causing violence to be like, let's take a step back. And that went for what, a week?
They did take a step back for a little bit.
For a week.
And then they went right back at him.
So they are right that Kamala Harris
is going to win.
Well, she could win. As Michael Malice says, she very much could win. They're right to recall that Vice President Kamala Harris was a uniquely unpopular figure. I just pulled up this is a headline from Axios from June of 2023, a year ago. NBC News poll, Kamala Harris hits record low for VP net favorability. 49% of registered voters have a negative view of her. 32% have a positive view. This is her net negative rating of -17, lowest for a vice president in the history of its poll. So, we can't forget that for the most of the Biden presidency, she was known for being less popular than he was. That has turned around as of late, and she is benefiting from an incredible torrent of relentlessly positive media coverage that has elevated her favorability. And she's against a vulnerable candidate. Donald Trump is not particularly popular. He is very alienating to people outside his hardcore base, but Republicans have stuck by him, and so that's their guy. They're up against someone who did not have to compete in a primary process. Kamala was not committed to taking all sorts of damaging far-left opinions that don't even make far-left people happy, because far-left people are impossible to make happy. She didn't have to do any of that in the primary process. She was just substituted in at the last minute. So it's all, it's all to her benefit as a candidate. That's clearly happening. I'm not in denial about it. She absolutely could win this election. It's going to be close.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to point out Trump's favorability. He had a favorability rating in the 30s. It was as low as 28 before he was elected in 2016 in the months leading up to November. So even Kamala Harris's favorability being at, 49%? It's so much higher than Trump's was, and he won the presidency. And so I think what we're seeing here with Kamala Harris is not that surprising to me. And it's also not that surprising to me that Joe Rogan doesn't have friends who liked her. And it's not surprising to me that Joe Rogan has no friends who like her right now. People live in silos. That's the America we live in. And I'm just not surprised by it coming from him. I know a lot of people that were skeptical on Kamala Harris, people who were not always Democrats, but people who like that she's talking about rent caps. People that like that she's offering a different path than Donald Trump did and a different path than Joe Biden did. And that while she has culture behind her, she's not running just on vibes like we saw Hillary Clinton run on. I think Hillary Clinton made some policy promises, but I think there was an overwhelming reliance on celebrity endorsements, having the rallies be riddled with gimmicks like Pokemon Go to the polls. I think it was a little bit cringe, and Kamala has something that's organic behind her in addition to some policy stances that really stand up to the elites in America.
I think it seems like the exact same thing. The exact same thing. I mean, she has policies, while also, yes, she is an advocate of progressive policies that, some are popular, some are not. She is a part of the ruling administration in America for the last 4 years. She has to own what the Biden administration has done. If you trusted Trump more than Biden on the economy and on immigration and on other issues, there's no difference. Kamala Harris is a part of and responsible for all those exact same policies. And if she breaks with them, she breaks with them. Really, what she has to break with is her even further left past on energy and environmental issues, or she can not, or she can embrace them, and we'll see how that goes down.
I've seen a lot of people, and I think it's a strategy on the right, to make Kamala Harris own everything Biden did as vice president. I think especially Republicans with Trump and Pence can understand that the vice president's positions on political and policy issues can be very different. Extremely different, I think some Trump supporters would say. So they know that a vice president and a president's political views are not the same, and they're trying to make Kamala Harris own Biden's views because they think that that's a winning strategy, to be like, she's basically the same as the last guy.
Well, if she doesn't own them,
she
can
not.
explain. She can explain then what she disagrees with Joe Biden on. She can come out and say, here are the things that happened under the Biden administration that I was not aware of and did not sign off on, and here's what I'll do differently. I would love to hear that from her.
I think many people understand that what the president does is not what the vice president does, and they're letting her run as her own candidate, and she's going to tell us what policies she supports, as she did at her rally, where in Atlanta she talked about rent caps and rent control. We haven't heard what Donald Trump's going to do about the housing crisis in the United States of America. I don't know how he's going to bring rent down across the country. I would like to know that. We don't have that. We have that from Kamala, and she's only been running for a couple of weeks. And so I think the reason the right is scrambling and trying to equate her with Hillary Clinton is because they have no idea how to run against her. And they want her to be Hillary Clinton because Hillary Clinton lost. But it's fundamentally different. From the young people that are supporting her, they can tell you it's fundamentally different from Hillary Clinton. So as much as the right says it, they can't manifest it to be true.
Well, I don't know. It will be a competitive election. I have no doubt about that. Republicans have, now she's not even officially the candidate yet, so she is enjoying this honeymoon period and she's going to continue to enjoy fawning media coverage. We saw from the media for about a month what they can do when they're really being scrutinizing and critical of a candidate, as they were of Joe Biden from his debate performance until the day that he dropped out. Now that they've gone right back to, and I think they've revealed something about themselves, because the American people saw that, wow, you really can do this. You can be skeptical, be critical. You can expose some underlying flaws in a candidate if you really set out to do it, as they've done with Trump for years and years and years. They're not going to do that for Kamala, and I wonder if people are waking up to that fact.
Well, Joe Biden was someone who had visible signs of cognitive decline, audible signs of cognitive decline.
That Kamala Harris helped cover up for months or years?
And so, sure, you can say that she's covering it up. She doesn't have to address his cognitive state. She doesn't have to speak on that if she doesn't want to. And of course, if she did, she might not get his endorsement as VP. And so one can understand many reasons for why she wouldn't have commented on that. But the media landscape completely changed. Of course, Kamala Harris isn't going to get as much criticism as someone who's an old man experiencing visible signs of cognitive decline who can't complete a sentence. Those are just two entirely different people. Of course, the media will treat them differently. Joe Biden was much worse, which is why the coverage was much worse.
More Rising right after this.